Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining in on today's stream. Thanks for joining Jamie, Keisha, Trading Desk, Click, B, Jorge, Vicky, Carlos, Hunter, Corbin, Sean, Jay. Thank you guys so much for joining. DraftKings is popping up this morning. It's up around 2%. It's looking pretty good so far. So yeah, that's definitely one stock to definitely keep on your radar today. The SPY itself is kind of flat. But what I see that's very interesting, Tom, is while the SPY is kind of flat slash slightly up, the QQQ is trending down.
Yeah, that is actually interesting. And we've been seeing that the value stocks lately have actually been doing pretty decent. We've been seeing pops out of like KO, Triple M, lots of those different types of value stocks, especially even yesterday with the banks. And, the QQQ generally doesn't do too well whenever those value stocks are running up. And just looking at my watch list today, I'm seeing Netflix in the red, Apple in the red. I know Netflix had those earnings yesterday. Facebook's red, Tesla's red. So I'm just seeing a bunch of these tech stocks kind of in the red today. But then up at the top, I'm seeing more like American Airlines, Wells Fargo, Nvidia, Enphase, AT&T, more of like those value type of stocks up there in the green. Enphase was mixed in, but mostly just the value stocks. Caterpillar's green too. So overall, interesting to see. And I like how the QQQ is at this 358 support, though. I think that they will hold this though today and maybe go back up.
And then, Tom, did you see KO moving? They're up a good amount today on some pretty solid earnings.
Yeah, that was actually good earnings. They had a 0.68 EPS versus a 0.566 estimate. It looks like they really popped up yesterday and early on this morning, of course. But man, they need to catch some momentum here at open. It seems like they are going red though ever since the market opened. And sometimes we see that with earnings where it'll pop up a lot in pre-market or something and then end up tanking off. At open, but I think that we might see some more momentum coming up later today. And KO on the daily chart has honestly been starting to break out pretty well up above that $56 resistance, really starting to pop.
All right, and then we have, well, thanks for joining. I'm Fierce and Alex. But then we have B saying, good morning, Mike and Tom. This week is the week of the recovery. Call options, gang. Let's see. So SPY's moving up pretty decently. It's up around 0.3%. Tom, what's like the next major resistance on the SPY right now?
I'm seeing a huge big resistance up there around 434. I think that there is a smaller resistance coming up around 433, you could say, kind of like the high of pre-market today. But I think 434 is more defined up there from a couple of days ago. So definitely have your eyes open for that. I think that we might see some more movement up into that level, and then we might hit that and just consolidate, or who knows, we might break that and end up going up. But definitely look out for 433 and then 434. And like I said, I think 434 is a little more defined.
Gotcha. DraftKings is now up around 3%. It's looking pretty good. And I really wouldn't be surprised if we saw like a couple day run out of this one. If we look back in history, we can see when it bounced off that support, you could say like on May 21st, or you could say May 24th too. It had a nice run up, but that uptrend lasted for a couple days. So the setup's looking pretty decent overall.
Yeah, it is. And I'm glad you pointed that out. It could definitely be a multi-day runner. And I'm glad to see it kind of breaking out of this like lower channel that it was in down here. We got really close to that $40 support again, ended up bouncing right back up. And hopefully we can continue to see this type of movement today.
Sounds good. All right, so we have Keisha saying, I'm watching POSH and TSP to the upside. How are they looking, Tom?
Yeah, POSH is looking pretty flat so far today. Not bad though. There is a resistance at like 42.45 and then $42, and we're kind of at 42 right now. But I would say today it just looks a little bit flat compared to yesterday. But we might still see more movement to go. If we break out above 42.45, I think we'll see a decent little run.
All right, and then TSP, this one's not looking bad. It is making higher lows, which is good to see. They have a pretty big support at $45, and they also have a really strong resistance at 50. So for this one, I would just really watch out for that resistance at $50.
Yeah, be really careful. This one's definitely a volatile stock, and this one's going to be riskier than POSH in my opinion. But it doesn't make it bad. I do like it how there's a support somewhere around 46.
All right. And then we have B saying, guys, I'm trying to sell these 5 put contracts, but they aren't selling. What do I have to do to sell them faster? So really the only thing you could do at this point is to just lower your limit price. Like if you really, really wanted to sell them in like a second, you could submit a market order. I don't recommend that though, because you can get really screwed over on your fill. But let's say you have a put option, and let's say the bid is at, let's say like $80, and the ask is at 90. If you put a sell in at like 85, that's the mid price, and most of the time you'll get filled within a couple minutes. But if you want to get filled quicker, you might have to move the limit order down to like 82 or 81 or like 83 or something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's going to be really the only way to get it to sell faster, because nobody's really buying it, on the market. And sometimes those bid and ask can make it a little bit confusing.
For sure. And then we have, let's see, Hunter saying CRSR is up good too. It is, Hunter. I think it looks pretty good. And not going to lie, I'm kind of tempted to get into this one. It's at a pretty good level. So I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
I really like Corsair personally. I think it's one of the better gaming stocks out there, and it bounced right off that lower support down there, right around 28.50. And personally, I love the setup. I think it's great to grab shares on, or even to sell puts. I think it's a really good setup right now. And they do have earnings, like on August 3rd, so they are a few weeks away. So it does give you some time here.
Awesome. Then we have Kathy saying, I'm watching Square. Should go up in the next month, in my opinion. And we also have Vicky asking about Square. So it looks pretty good. It's up around 2% so far. If we take a look at the chart, it is above that $250 resistance, which is awesome to see. The next major resistance I see is at $260 level. But, it has a lot of momentum, and it looks pretty good overall.
Yeah, it does. And it's hit that 260 level like 4 or 5 times. And it even hit it just a couple weeks ago. So we might actually see a good push up above that if we can see this momentum continue up. And like I said, if we can break through 260, we might see a decent run all the way up to like 275 to that 280 resistance.
There we go. Clove's not looking bad either, Tom.
No, it's not. I saw it was actually starting to get a nice little pop back to the upside here. And it looks like on the daily, CLOV is finally getting some green, 3 green days in a row. And it actually looks pretty solid now.
For sure. All right. So we have Adrian saying, good morning, fellas. How about Boeing? So Boeing, I am pretty bullish on them for the long term. They're having a pretty good day right now. Over the next couple months, I'm bullish. I don't see like any specific play like for today or tomorrow. It's more of like the next couple months.
Yeah, and I love today how it broke up above that 220 resistance. I think that was a very nice move that they had. If you would have caught it right then, I think it would be an even better play than it is now, but it's definitely bullish and it's continuing to run. It's at 222 right now. And I would think that today we might come up and hit like 225. So watch out for the movement, but definitely just be a little careful with it. Boeing's a volatile stock. They like to go up and down pretty drastically. And while they are running, though, they do like to continue. So definitely watch out for this one. I think it could be a pretty good day trade if you catch it at the right time. But like I said, we're getting a little close to resistance, and it's going to just get harder and harder the more it keeps going up here.
For sure. And then we have B saying, guys, CCL is already up 5%. NCLH is up as well. I know these ones moved so fast. Like I was really looking to catch these ones on the dip, maybe for some leaps or something like that. But man, Tom, they moved very quickly.
Yeah, they did. CCL hit right off that $20 support, came right up on the daily chart. And like you said, it was so fast that it really it lost a lot of we lost a lot of the opportunities with these cruise lines and the airlines. And man, it just hopefully they can go back down and retest like $20 on CCL. I know NCLH had some of that had some like lawsuits with Florida going on and stuff like that. So that could still affect their stock. They have a good resistance coming up right around 25, but man, CCL, I really wanted somewhere around that $20 support and should have just pulled the trigger.
Yeah, I'm with you. Then we have Sean saying levels on Workhorse for day trades. Let's check it out. WKHS. So this one is up slightly today. I think it looks pretty good, Tom. But some levels, it is, let me take a look real quick. At the hourly, it's bouncing off this $11 support. I see a little bit of resistance at 12, but no major levels besides that. Besides, you can see like $12.50, and then of course 13. But in the short term, personally, I'm not seeing any major levels. What about you?
Yeah, I don't see anything too big right now. And even though, like, for example, like you pointed out, like 13 and 1250, they're still not like the biggest levels in the world, but definitely look out for them. I think that 1250 might pose as a pretty good one. So just look out in the shorter term. But I think for like the next couple of weeks, Workhorse might get a pretty nice little boost back to the upside.
Sounds good. So how's AMC looking? I know that a lot of these like meme stocks are moving up pretty well right now. AMC seems to be up just under 1%, but do you have any levels on this one?
Yeah, it ended up holding that like $30 support down there at the bottom and ended up bouncing right back up. And it doesn't look too bad right now. It's let's look at it on the 5-day, 15-minute. If it can get some more momentum and pass up above the $45 intraday resistance right here, I think that we could see a decent run out of AMC and possibly some of the other meme stocks too. But man, AMC has just been getting killed on the daily chart, but it's nice to see it turning around. And man, if we start to head back up towards like $50 and possibly break that up into like $55-$60 range, I mean, AMC's resurgence might be back.
Yeah, it'll be tough, but I hope it does for everyone holding. It's just so volatile. So
Yeah,
we
it's
have
so volatile. And like you said, it's so risky too, because it's at 43 and it could go down to 30 within just like a day or two. So it's very, very risky. It's a high risk, high reward type of play. Personally, it's not a play for me, but I know lots of people are looking at it off that $30 support. And if the buyers come in and buy it back up, then hopefully it ends up popping up for everybody. But I have a feeling it's kind of lost its upwards momentum.
Yep, I feel ya. All right, so we have Sean saying, thanks, fellas. I like the swing trade idea on Workhorse. There we go. Then we have Carlos saying, this pullback was rather shallow than I was expecting. What's your take? So let me take a look at the market real quick. So one thing to keep in mind is, like we saw back in February and March of 2020, we actually had a lot of green days mixed in during that downturn. So like, for example, like if I go back to the SPY and let's say I go back 2 years, so like in February and March of last year, like we actually had some huge green days like while the market overall was falling. So personally, I would not say that the quote unquote pullback is over yet. Be aware that in the past it's not like you just fall straight down. And personally, like I'm like intraday, I'm seeing the SPY make, and the QQQ especially, make lower highs. So personally, I don't see like the risk of the pullback as completely like eliminated just yet. But I definitely wasn't expecting movement like we saw yesterday. I'll say that.
Yeah, that was a really big recovery back to the upside, and a lot of people are blaming like the yields going up for that, and kind of helping the banks rise back up. So maybe that's the main reason, is the financial sector had a pretty good boost up yesterday.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just we're in a tough situation with the market because now we're starting to see some of the tech stocks, like you said, Tom, start to fall off, and we have KO up 2% on the day, which is huge for a company like KO.
Yeah, and they actually reported good earnings and stuff. And maybe this will kind of like give us a little insight into these earnings reports coming out. Maybe we'll see some of these value stocks start to report some great earnings. And it looks like, we had Netflix report some bad earnings yesterday. Maybe it'll end up hurting some of the tech stocks on earnings and helping some of the value stocks, because I know that the value stocks, particularly over the past year, haven't done the best. Like KO, for example, like sure, they're starting to pop up now, but they were largely flat for for the past couple of years. Like, yeah, they recovered up from 45 to 50, but they didn't really move too much. Before COVID, they were at $60. So it's not like, they're finally now getting that good momentum back to those highs, it looks like. And it's finally getting that momentum though, while the tech stocks are pushing up to all-time highs, like Apple, Microsoft, and some of those other ones, Nvidia. And it's just showing that I think that that transition is kind of going to be coming back in, and people are going to be hopping back into like those value stocks.
Gotcha. How's Palantir looking? I know it struggled a lot over the past month, but yesterday it had a pretty good day, and it's still in the green right now.
Yeah, it was actually pretty solid yesterday. And today it's kind of flat. There's a little bit of resistance at like 2250, but it is starting to catch some green momentum here this morning. And hopefully it can start to really rock it up. If it breaks 2250, I'm definitely going to have it on my radar. But man, I really like Palantir. Like you said, a great couple days for the past few days. And I could definitely see this momentum continuing up today. I like the setup on the 1 minute. It's up above the 1,000 SMA, and that's always a good sign.
All right, and then we have B saying, guys, why does the QQQ always open red and then recover midday? Could it be because people sell off at open? So I would have to like look back through data to validate that, but I mean, generally the market has just been exploding over the past couple months, especially tech stocks within the QQQ. But yeah, I mean, there can definitely be increased selling pressure at open with people taking profits and also like algorithmic trading systems hedging themselves, and there's a bunch of different reasons. But generally speaking, the QQQ has definitely been rising a lot over the past couple months.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind is that for some reason, a lot of tech stocks they do just like to go down at open and then rise, and we see it happen a lot, like with Apple and others, where they kind of even if they're up in pre-market, they might just like dip down a little bit, and like Mike said, that could be algorithmic trading systems doing all this, and just there's so many different possibilities of what could be causing this stuff to happen, but definitely a good thing to note. And just keep in mind that maybe like right at open, the market's always a little bit more volatile. So even if there's like a good green day going on, sometimes at open, you'll just catch that downwards momentum for 5 minutes just because that volume just gets so crazy right there. But then it'll end up popping 15 minutes later. So, it could just come down to just being that there's just a ton of volume at open too.
Gotcha. And then Tom, check out UAL. So they reported earnings yesterday, and they seem to be decent earnings. The stock's up around 3.5% today, which looks pretty good overall. I was thinking about dip buying airlines, but I actually want cruise lines instead. I know we had a conversation yesterday about this, but it's just interesting to see how United is running up on their earnings, and that should give us some insight into other stocks earnings like Southwest or American Airlines or Delta Airlines. Generally if one company has good earnings or runs up, most of the time the other ones do as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing to point out. And those earnings did very well. They actually had a negative 3.91 EPS. And after COVID, they had a -2. Then they went to -9, -8, -7, -750. So their EPS was getting pretty bad, like on a fundamental level, that's terrible. Up before COVID, they were at a +4, +4, +2. So, that's definitely showing that they're taking a big loss, but at least it's getting better right now. And I'm really glad to see this kind of getting back into those lower numbers. And I think that that'll really help the airlines for like the next few months, as long as like a new Delta variant or something doesn't go on. But I think that the airlines will do just fine.
All right. We have XPEV exploding, Tom. They're up over 6%. XPEV and LI are both popping pretty well right now, and they've been struggling over the past couple months, but I figured I'd throw them out there to keep them on your radar.
Yeah, XPEV is definitely one that I kind of forgot about. I didn't forget about LI, but XPEV is actually moving pretty well here on the daily. I love how it kind of held this like 38 to $40 support and is kind of turning itself right back to the upside. I think that looks like a pretty good play.
All right, and then we have Alex saying, I agree with Mike, head fake in the morning, feel the market is weak, hope we have a smooth trend today and the rest of the week, for sure. So it's always nice to have the smooth trends. That's when the market's the best. We have Sean saying Neo, and we had the rocket emoji, Tom. How's it looking?
Let's see. Neo is actually up 2.7%. And looks like on the 15-minute chart, they were running up pretty well. On the 1 minute, yeah, they hit highs of like 45.67. It looks like they are kind of pulling back right now, but that was a great run they had this morning from 44 all the way up to like 45.50, 45.60.
All right, and then we have Jorge asking about MMAT. So this one's kind of bottoming out. I guess you can classify this as like one of the meme stocks. So you could be like CLOV, AMC, GME, MMAT, Wish. A lot of these stocks tend to move together because a lot of people classify them as meme stocks. And, just kind of like how airlines move together and tech stocks move together, you can say meme stocks move together. Right now, they have some good momentum. CLOV's popping up nicely. AMC's popping up nicely. So I like the setup overall.
Yeah, me too. And hopefully these meme stocks can just continue to keep flying back up, and hopefully everybody who bought at the bottom ends up getting rewarded. Because man, like some of these, like AMC for example, hit right off that 30 support. I know that CLOV was down there at support as well, and I know MMAT was getting low. So overall, it was getting to like those to those levels almost where people would just start to buy the dip on it.
All right, and then we have Matthew asking about gold. So let's take a look. Gold, let me take a look. So not sure if you meant like actual gold or Barrick gold, but we'll take a look at both of them. So GOLD is it's definitely been downtrending over the past couple months. I just see a giant descending triangle pattern on this one over the past year or so. They've been making lower highs, and then they're kind of bottoming out at this support at like 20 bucks. And then if we look at GLD, this one, it has a pretty similar setup. But I do like GLD like over like the next couple months or so. I feel like Leaps would be the best, or even physical gold if you even wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, physical gold can always be a good way too. I recommend getting like gold bullion or like golden bars, stuff like that, like 1 ounce bars, for example. I think that's always a good way to go for the long term. If you want in the short term, GLD can be a pretty good way as well. If you really want to get technical, you can go trade some futures on it, but I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you're pretty experienced in day trading and stuff. Futures can be pretty high risk, high reward, but I will say though, GLD, I like it for the next few months, especially with how they say inflation should stay higher. I don't think that we're going to see like a huge rise though, but I'm mainly just targeting $180, at least on GLD itself. But I do like how GLD is up above the 100 SMA, and it just seems like they're holding their supports pretty well, like at 168.
All right, and then we have Jaydeep saying mRNA. So this one is way overbought in my opinion. mRNA, they're also being added to the S&P 500, which is good and bad. It's good for the company, but statistically speaking, when this happens, stocks like to pull back a good amount. So for that reason, one, it's already just overbought in general. I don't like it. I like it to the downside though.
Yeah, that's honestly a bad thing to see, and it does look like it's just kind of catching that downwards momentum right now. And I know that a lot of people were looking at this while it was overextended and trying to make a play on it, and looks like it ended up pulling back like a lot of people thought. So overall, I'm glad to see it doing this. And whenever stocks start to get this overextended, you just have to start looking at them to the downside, because at some point they just have to stop somewhere.
For sure. And then we have Alex saying, is it still too soon or too late to get into cruise and airlines? It's hard to say. No one can catch the bottom, not even Warren Buffett. I would say that they're still at a good level. I really wish I grabbed them lower, though. I know Tom and I feel the same way about this. I mean, who was expecting a recovery like on CCL to go from, you could say, basically $19 up to almost 23 in 3 days? Like, that was such a crazy move, and I feel like we kind of missed the boat. But for a longer term play, they're still at some very low levels. So to answer your question, I would say it's not too late. It just sucks. No one can catch the bottom, but hopefully we see a pullback, and hopefully that can give a better entry.
Yeah, hopefully, because we're already up 18% from that 1919 bottom level there. Definitely a good low though. I like it right there at that $20 support. Hopefully we can get it around there. If you do though want to try to make a play on it, I would say like selling some puts or something could work. I know that it's going up right now, which sucks, but if you sell like the $20 puts, you might be able to still catch some good premiums on it. I haven't really checked the chain so far this morning yet, but man, it's already up 7%. And whenever we were talking about it earlier this morning, it was up like 5%. So definitely just keeps going up and up. And I would say anywhere under $23 for me would be a good time to pick up shares. So I would say it's still within that good range. And at least if you get shares at 23, and it falls back down to like 19 or something, you can kind of average in there.
Gotcha. And yeah, we have, what is this? I'm Fear saying Apple with a big red candle. It's kind of tanking off intraday, Tom. We have the SPY popping up, but Apple's not looking good.
Man, it's not, and it hit off that 150 level right on the nose, which is a bad sign on a daily. And yeah, intraday really starting to fall below like that 145 support, not looking good for Apple. And man, I'm almost going to be looking at this one to maybe come back down to like 144 today. This is honestly starting to look pretty bad. And like you said, the QQQ looks like it might start to be selling off. Apple on the 1 minute is actually falling right below that 1,000 SMA too, and that's a pretty bad sign.
Absolutely. All right, we have Hunter saying CARR going slow and steady. Let's take a look. CARR. All right, so this one is, yeah, it's definitely going slow and steady on the daily. Looks pretty decent too. Nice slow and steady movement. It's breaking above that $50 resistance. They pay a nice dividend too. But yeah, I mean, that max weekly chart is about as slow and steady as you can get. It's very, very consistent.
Yeah, let me check out the Max Weekly. Yeah, that is actually slow and steady. CARR. It hasn't been on the market too long though, so I don't know what to think about it as far as that goes. But I will say, like on the Max Daily, I like the way it's looking. Looks like it's starting to really break up above $50, which is nice. And I don't know what they do exactly, but if they're like a UPS or something like that, then I could understand why they're going up. And we've seen stocks like UPS and FedEx just continue to kill it for like 20 years straight. So I could definitely see CARR doing well if they're a type of shipper.
All right. And then we have Terry saying, I'm thinking about swinging some NVDA calls. So, yeah, I mean, it's up around 3.5% today. It's not bad. It's not my favorite setup in the market right now, but it's not bad overall, and always trust your gut.
Yeah, definitely, and it is getting bought back up right now, which is nice to see. And hopefully, Nvidia can keep running up after their split. A lot of people were kind of expecting them to fall, and hopefully, they can just kind of keep ripping back to the upside for a lot of people. But personally, I think that they'll end up hitting a resistance somewhere along the way, and they might end up coming back down.
All right. And then we have B saying, guys, how do you guys feel on the news about the possibility of the federal government removing marijuana from their Schedule 1 lists of drugs? Could this help Sundial or Tilray or MJ stocks overall? So, yeah, it would definitely help them out. I know that a lot of these MJ stocks on the market right now, like Tilray, Sundial, you could say like CGC, and a lot of other ones, they're not in the best financial positions overall. So yeah, I mean, if the government definitely removed marijuana from their Schedule 1 list of drugs, that would definitely help them out. But I'm just curious to see like other like better like companies that are in like better financial positions. Tilray is great to trade and all, but I know that fundamentally they're not the best.
Yeah, and one other thing to keep in mind too is that while a lot of these stocks are really popular, like Tilray, CGC, some of the others, of course, like I'll keep in mind most of these are Canadian. Like Canopy Growth here, this is a Canadian company. I believe Tilray is Canadian as well. There's a lot of American ones though that you can find. Like I'm not sure if CANN is still American or not, but you can definitely check out and kind of figure out which ones are, which ones aren't. Now, keep in mind, they'll still be able to like import it into the United States and stuff like that. But just keep in mind that like the United States legalizing it isn't going to be as big for CGC as it will for the ones that are in the United States, kind of like PLNHF, for example.
For sure. So I know that Tilray and CGC are definitely Canadian owned. And then the CANN that you just pointed out, it said that they're headquartered in Denver, Colorado. So I'm sure there's like certain like technicalities on how they have to, whatever. I know that there's a lot of regulation in the industry, but we'll see. I feel like as that industry progresses and as MJ gets legalized, I'm sure we'll see a lot more companies go public, and I'm sure we'll see like better opportunities. But it's definitely on my radar, and these stocks are so volatile. I've really been watching Tilray over like the past couple months, and like it keeps trying to break out, but it just gets rejected like again and again and again.
Yeah, it does. And one thing I just want to point out really quick while we are talking about the legalization is whenever Canada actually legalized their marijuana, Tilray was really running up into that legalization all the way up to like $300 a share. And then once they legalized it, Tilray, CGC, and the others for some reason crashed down. And they said there was like supply issues and stuff like that. So just keep in mind that that actually crashed after they legalized it. So maybe we'll see a nice run up like into the legalization and then a crash after. Nobody knows yet, but definitely just wanted to point that out because it was just strange to me how Canada, they finally like got it legalized on this day and then they all just started tanking down.
For sure. So it looks like we have some good movement, Tom, that we're missing. Nvidia's up 4%, Neo's up 4%, DraftKings is up 3.5%, Penn is looking really good too. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stocks moving. Penn's ripping.
Yeah, look at this. DraftKings, even Penn. I like to see all these stocks going up. Like you said, it's just an awesome day so far, a good recovery day. And, after seeing those nice two green days on Monday and Tuesday, I was almost expecting a little bit of a pullback, or I was a little, I shouldn't say I was expecting it. I was a little worried of a pullback coming today, but I'm really happy to see these stocks breaking out, especially like DraftKings popping up above that 45.50 resistance. We have Penn here breaking out above $70 with an awesome move all the way up to 72.20. And there's just so many good opportunities in the market right now. And, while we are missing the opportunities, I would say on like a lot of these airlines, I would say Penn is still really low to its bottom. The bottom's around 65. We're only at like $72 right now. And man, I think getting Penn under $75 is a steal.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, then we have Corbin saying, Apple looks good to me, LOL. Thanks, guys. How's it looking now, Tom? I know it was kind of tanking off, but let's take a look at it right now. Apple, yeah, it's down around 0.7%, so it's not bad. Always trust your gut. So Hunter was saying it's Carrier Global, which is home appliances, Tom, for CARR.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make more sense. But wow, they're ripping it then for being a home appliance company. And I'm glad to see him doing this good. But overall, that's just a nice, like Hunter said, slow and steady chart for the past couple of years.
All right. I'm sure Hunter's used them a couple times over the past couple weeks, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he has.
All right. Then we have Kumar saying thoughts about PDD for today or swing play. PDD. Let's take a look. So this one's looking pretty decent overall. It's bouncing right off the $100 support, and I kind of like it for both, like a day trade and a swing trade. If you do decide to swing it, just make sure you have time. You don't want to be buying like an option that expires next week. It's always good to have more time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things with it is, of course, getting time on everything is going to be the way to go. And obviously, like if you look at like the theta curves and stuff, you always want to have time just in case like we see an overall like market pullback or something. You're going to want to have that extra like that extra little wiggle room, I should say.
Yep. All right. And then we have Sean saying CRON. So I saw Tilray was popping up. CRON is looking pretty good too. They're up just under 2%.
Yep, Kronos. Hopefully it just follows the rest of the marijuana stocks right up. And, CRON really hit off of that $7 support down there, almost like right on the money at $7. It's hit off of it about 4 or 5 times in the past and looks pretty good off of that.
There we go. All right, we have Raphael saying Adam Aaron named as chairman of AMC also. How's AMC looking?
Man, I think that AMC is not looking too bad. It's just one of those stocks where like it's kind of recovering back up today, and we're getting a little overextended, I think, intraday, and we just saw a little bit of a pullback. If we do head up and we end up breaking 46.50 back to the upside, I think it could be good, but intraday, I would just be a little careful of it until we see more momentum. Like I said, up to like 46.40 or 46.50. If we can start to break up through that again, I think it'll be a pretty good play. But we're just seeing a little bit of a pullback right now.
Palantir is looking amazing. It's almost up 2% today. I'm looking at a couple different stocks right now. UPST is looking good. DraftKings is looking good. DraftKings is looking really good. Clove is looking great. Tom, we're having a good morning.
Yeah, we are. This is looking pretty solid. I love to see Palantir, like you said. They're really flying up through that awesome 2250 resistance level up there. I'd love to see them run like this. I think Palantir could see a pretty good run, possibly up to like 23, maybe even like 2340 today. Man, I really love the play on DraftKings right now. They're sitting right at their daily highs intraday. And man, looking at them on the 1 minute chart just looks crazy right now. They're finally starting to run. They're holding this 100 SMA perfectly, and it's looking pretty good. So hopefully we can start to see a good pop up above this like 47.75 level that we're sitting at. I think that we'll see a pretty good move, maybe up towards like 48, like 50 area. I think that looks like a pretty good resistance, and we are kind of breaking it right now.
There we go. And we have Sean saying up 20% today on Workhorse, 8/21 calls. There we go. Jorge saying SNDL also up over 5%, looking great. Hunter saying half of CARR's earnings report is going to be from my family. Can't catch a break on our appliances. It's been brutal, Hunter. Well, maybe if you buy some calls on them or sell some puts, you can get a little kickback.
Yeah, you might be able to get a little kickback or something. That's pretty funny, actually.
All right, and then we have Click saying Intel is flying. Let's take a look. INTC. Yeah, this one's looking pretty solid. Up around 1% today. Broke above the $55.50 resistance. The next resistance I see is right around that like $56.50 area. Do you see anything else?
Yeah, somewhere right around there to 57, I think is going to be like the next resistance level. And man, just looking at Intel though, I will say, even though they're catching green over the past 3 days, be a little careful with Intel. I wouldn't go all in right now in case you see another leg back down, but I think that they will be solid for the longer term. But like I said, just keep in mind, just be really careful because they've had a lot of like stuff like they keep delaying their chips and stuff like that. They do have earnings coming up tomorrow. So that'll actually be a pretty interesting earnings, I think, whenever they report tomorrow. I think a lot of people have their eyes on Intel, and it'll really like give an insight into like how their chips are doing. So I really like that their earnings is tomorrow. And I think that it'll kind of like sway. I think that that'll give Intel like almost like the direction that they need for the next couple months. And whether that's up or down, we don't know. But if the earnings go south, then definitely look at it to the downside.
All right. And then we have Chris saying, where do you guys think NIO will be heading short term? So that's $1 million question, but let's take a look. NIO's up around 4.5%. It's at that $46 resistance, and it's popping up pretty well. The next resistance I see is right around that $47.50 area. There's actually a lot of different levels on NIO right now, so it's hard to say. Plus, it's extremely volatile, so I like the stock for the long term. For the short term, it definitely has upwards momentum, and the next major resistance I see is right around 47.50.
Yep, I see that as well. 47.50 is definitely going to be a good resistance for it. I think in the longer term, my 1000 SMA on the 15-minute intraday looks like it's right around 47 if you want to look for that. But looking at the max daily, I really like the way NIO is starting to turn back to the upside. And man, I could see this one continuing for a couple of days.
Awesome. So Neo's up a good amount. Penn, Enphase, lots of green today, which is awesome.
The American Airlines.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well. They're doing very well.
It's strange actually. They're actually popping up pretty decently, and well, actually, that makes sense because they only cost about $20 a share.
Yeah, exactly. So I only have 2 stocks that are red on my watch list, and that's Amazon and Zoom. So I know Amazon had a crazy run up over the past couple months. Zoom did as well. I was kind of thinking about like a double dip play on Zoom, Tom. I know that I played it in the middle of May, and it was a pretty solid run up. It's definitely one of the best plays of the past year, but I feel like it's like making like a higher low right now, and I'm just thinking about dip buying it.
Yeah, and I will say it's actually getting right down to some of these SMAs, like the 100 too, and we've seen a few other stocks like Palantir and some of the others kind of like pull back to that 100 and then end up going up off of that. It wasn't Palantir. There was a couple other ones, but definitely look out for that because it seems like that it's right around support as well. And I would think that Zoom could be pretty good. And, one good thing is that with this Delta variant coming out, that should help Zoom as well. Like if if that ends up getting bad, like, and people have to start going back to more of like the over the computer, I should say, like meetings, like virtual meetings, Zoom should do very, very well with that Delta variant.
For sure. And all right, so we have Vicky saying AXP, please. Let's take a look. So this one's definitely more of a value stock, which is awesome. It's up under 3% today, which is just looks great overall. They're a solid company. They look great. I'm not sure if you're looking at them for like a swing trade or day trade or long-term hold, but they have a lot of momentum, and I think that they look pretty decent for the short term right now. For a day trade, we're kind of getting to a point where, it's already up almost 3%, which is in the 92nd percentile of moves for American Express. So, it can definitely keep running up, but, the more it rises, the more risk you're going to have on the table.
Yeah, for sure. And with those earnings coming up and we're like right at all-time highs, it might take like good earnings to finally break out to all-time highs or something. So definitely be a little careful with it. If we do start just running and hitting all-time highs, then I would say just follow the momentum at that point. But unless something like that happens, I would just wait till after earnings.
All right, we have G saying, how's Tesla for today? So we had a lot of stocks popping up, but Tesla, even with a giant tech explosion, hasn't really been running. It's just kind of flat today. There's not any momentum. I'm just neutral on it. I'm not someone who's like a Tesla bear at this level, but I'm definitely not bullish on them either.
Yeah, especially like you said, I'm not going to necessarily be a bear on it, but I'm not going to be bullish on it right now. And just looking at it on the chart, it is below some of these trend lines again. Just not a good sign for the short term. And hopefully they can start to get a pop back up. And I think if we see tech continue up tomorrow, and if Tesla has some good earnings, I think that we'll end up going up. They have earnings coming up on July 26th, and hopefully they start talking about that truck coming out, because man, I'm just waiting for that Tesla truck to start coming out. I think that once we start hearing the numbers from that, we'll finally see Tesla like start to shoot up again.
So with Tesla, like, I think that they're an amazing company, but just I don't love their setup right now. Like, even with all of these tech stocks exploding, Tesla barely ran up. I mean, they've been consolidating in the same level since like February.
Yeah, they have. And that's just a bad thing to see. And it's just been moving really, really slow, and they have recovered up a little bit, like from 555 up to 650. But compared to like what Palantir, Zoom, and what all these other stocks have done back to the upside, it's almost like nothing for Tesla. And man, I'm really waiting those numbers. I think that they just need a good catalyst right now or something. Like, they're just sitting really stagnant. They're spending a lot of money as a company, kind of expanding out right now. And I think that that's the main thing. They're just in like a little bit of like an expansionary period. They're kind of researching a bunch of stuff, getting tons of factories going for these new trucks, getting all this good production stuff in. And then once they're kind of settled, I think that we'll finally see those kind of good fundamentals come back in. I think that we'll see their EPS get even better too. It's getting a little better, but they were at 2.18 back here, 1.24, got a little hurt with COVID. So I think that in the next few months, we'll start to see really good numbers with Tesla, and we'll start to see those finally, like those good earning reports, and we'll start to see that kind of news start to flow in again, I think.
For sure. And I think the best way to play this one is when it does fall, the IV likes to rise, obviously, but you can get some stupid premiums selling puts on this thing. Like, let's say it like retested the lows at like, let's say like 550, and then IV starts to rise. You can go like $200 out of the money for like a weekly option and get paid like a couple $100. So, there's definitely opportunities with it. You just have to be careful. So it's on my watch list as always. But then we have B saying, I'm off to work, guys. Thank you for the analysis and have a nice day. Well, thanks so much for joining and asking great questions. Tom, how's the SPY looking right now?
Yeah, the SPY is looking decent. It's actually up today on the 1 minute. It's been running almost all morning. It broke up above that pre-market high around 433. We're sitting around 433.50 right now. I do maybe see a little bit of a pullback coming into the market right now, but we are starting to get back up there. We're getting back to that 434 level on the max daily. That all-time high is around 437, and it just seems like that we're still seeing that good recovery out of the SPY. But going over to the QQQ, they're starting to turn back off a little bit. And the Dow itself is kind of just flat up here at the top along with the SPY. But it still seems like that the QQQ is just lagging behind a little bit.
DraftKings is looking good, Tom. Up over 4% today, retesting that high of day. Looks good. CLOV, it's pulling back a little bit, but it's still in the green. MMAT is exploding.
Yeah, how is this one still going up? I don't understand. This one up 25%. This one's definitely a big runner, a big I'm not going to say like a meme stock, but it's a big hype stock. Whenever that hype gets behind MMAT, it definitely likes to run, and I'm glad to see it moving off of these bottom levels. And man, if this one could become a multi-day runner, it would be a really good opportunity, but we'll just have to see how it ends up playing out right now. We're sitting right at the $4 area, and man, if we can see a big break up above this, we might see a big run again.
So I'm looking in the profits channel on the Discord right now, and TrueDat said, whoever mentioned MMAT on the last video, thank you. And he posted a screenshot of like over 13 grand with MMAT.
Wow, that's
awesome.
actually really solid. I know True's been posting some great profits in there, but man, MMAT $13,000, really nice trade. I love to see that. Mike, was it on shares?
I don't know. I would expect it to be options, but it's just hard to say because there's not a bunch of information provided. But yeah, I mean, awesome job either way, True. That's awesome to see. Then we have Alex saying, how are Clove, DraftKings, Palantir for the rest of the day? So I think Clove and DraftKings look amazing. Palantir is looking great too. You know, I like them all.
Yeah, DraftKings starting to break out. Clove is pulling back a little bit, but my two favorites are DraftKings and Palantir. Those two look really strong for the rest of the day. Like I said, CLOV is pulling back just a little bit, but it's still up on the day pretty well. So don't expect anything, too drastic from them. But Palantir is looking really solid along with DraftKings. And man, DraftKings is finally breaking out above that high again. And we might see another run, maybe up to like 48.50, or hopefully we can hit $50. That would be insane.
I mean, it looks awesome, Tom. It's breaking out. And, like I said in the beginning of the stream, when DraftKings gets in these like uptrend type patterns, like it'll run for a couple days. So I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. And we're holding it and it's looking like it's pretty good. So we are getting up to some resistance. I have resistance posted around $48, which can obviously hurt it in the short term. So if we hit that and then we go down a little bit or something today, don't freak out or anything like that. We'll just continue to see how it ends up moving for the next couple days.
Looks great. All right, we have Hunter saying Netflix is still tanking off. I just saw this one. This thing's getting demolished, down around 4%, and that sucks. It had some crazy movement in after hours. It was all over the place, and it actually bounced up last night, and now it's back down again. It's getting pretty close to that $500 support. Hunter, if it breaks below this with some good momentum, I might have to sell some puts on it depending on what they want for the margin requirement. But, I know you can get some pretty decent premiums with this one, but Ivy's kind of low, which is kind of weird. But I don't know. Either way, it's on my radar and it's not looking the best.
Man, they might come all the way back down to that $500 level from last night's after hours. That's actually insane. This is not a good move out of Netflix, and I hope that this does not foreshadow of the earnings, especially out of like video streaming websites like Netflix or like Disney Plus or something. That would be bad. I know that they had a lot less subscribers added on than they were expecting, so definitely not a good sign for them in the short term. But I will say though, a lot of people have been kind of like canceling Netflix and stuff because of some of their political stuff. So just keep that stuff in mind too, that whenever these companies are getting political with stuff, they're kind of losing some customers.
Another thing to keep in mind is, the world's reopening a lot too, and people, who may have just, made a Netflix account for the pandemic, they might now not need it anymore. So there's a lot of things that could be driving Netflix's tank, you could say. One thing that I'm just watching out for is how their like gaming division does. They're way too early in the process to like have like an official opinion. They're just way too early in the process for me to have like any official opinion on it. But I'm just excited to see what their like final result looks like. And depending on what it looks like, I might even, grab some shares in Netflix.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna have to. For me, it's definitely gonna have to like influence me in a pretty big way. And man, if they come up with something where you can like stream games onto your TV or something, that would be a really cool thing to see. And I'm really happy to see like what they have coming out with it because anything in the gaming industry kind of excites me a little. I like to play games a little bit. At least I used to, whenever I was younger, a lot more than I do now. But definitely a cool thing to see. And who knows, maybe I'll get to play some free games on my Netflix account.
There we go. Then we have Jorge saying, I believe that was me mentioning MMAT. You're welcome. Yeah, you should talk to True Dat, Jorge. He banked off MMAT. Second highest short float stock. Then we have Vicky saying, Square next resistance, please. Let's take a look. SQ. So right now it's at like 253. The next major one I see is right at that $260 level.
Yep, I'm seeing one actually at 255 on the 15-minute, just on like a more of like a closer time frame. And then like you said, Mike, on the more of like a more defined one at the longer term around 260.
For sure. All right, then we have Corbin saying, can you check out NURO? Let's take a look. NURO. Wow, this thing is exploding. I didn't even see this one. Let's see.
Wow.
I'm trying to see the news. So it looks like they were halted. Circuit breaker to the upside. They're up 240%. They are soaring on FDA's breakthrough designation for Quell. So it looks like something with the FDA.
It says that they have their fibromyalgia treatment got an FDA boost, it's saying.
Huh. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's crazy. These biotechs are definitely very volatile, and they're halted right now. So I'm curious to see how they move after this halt.
Wow, I hope that, yeah, I mean, we always get questions about these random biotech stocks, like in the YouTube comments and everything like that. And whenever we're looking at these, a lot of times we don't know any of the fundamentals, behind them or like what kind of drugs they're researching and stuff. But man, sometimes these biotech stocks can really run. Sometimes they can end up really tanking off. But guys, this is what can happen though if you catch one that ends up having something really successful with like the FDA or something. And man, this is explosive. And if they came out with something good for fibromyalgia, then I can see why they're exploding. And, we saw a stock do this a while ago called Biogen, BIIB. They ended up running up very significantly in after hours from like 300 a share all the way up to 468 a share on news with an Alzheimer's drug. So it's just whenever you get these and they're catching those kind of good news catalysts, you can really get some big explosive moves.
You know it. So yeah, this thing's going crazy. If NURO had implied volatility, I'd probably sell some calls on them, like call credit spreads, but it's not an option for this setup. But then we have Hunter saying maybe they'll start signing streamers like Twitch and YouTube. Yeah, that's a great point, Hunter. Either way, I'm just very curious to see how it ends up being. It could be a total flop or it could be huge. And I think we're just way too early in the process to tell. I'm not going to grab shares now, but if I like their product, I'll definitely consider it. Trading Desk said, games when you were younger. I played daily and I'm 52. There we go. Awesome. Then we have Vicky saying, NIO, next resistance, please. All right, let's take a look. NIO, it's looking good. It's up around 4.5%. The next resistance is right around 47. And then after that, 48. And that's just what I see. Do you see anything extra?
Yeah, I think 47 is going to be pretty big. That's a huge level on the intraday. And that's also going to be right around that 1,000 SMA. So I'd be pretty careful with that one.
Awesome. DraftKings is looking great.
Yeah, look at that. Breaking out again all the way up above $48, just continuing its run this morning. And man, that setup on the 1 minute was starting to look really solid. And I'm glad to see it really starting to break out.
Awesome. All right. Then we have Kathy saying, next resistance on DraftKings, please. What's the next one?
I have one right at $48.50. If I'm looking at the 180-day 4-hour, we could say that there's a really defined one up there right around $49.50 to $50. I think that would be the main one, is somewhere right around 50, but I do see one at $48.50.
Awesome. All right. And then we have Jorge saying KO dipping down to the most recent support. Let's take a look. Yeah, man, that's kind of a letdown with earnings. They were looking so good at open.
Yeah, that's too bad. I was really hoping to see another run out of KO, and that max daily chart was starting to look really solid. But like he said, they're pulling all the way back down to that support. And who knows, maybe they'll bounce off that and go back up today or something. But I'm really hoping to see them get maybe back up to those highs, maybe around like that $60 resistance.
There we go. So yeah, DraftKings is looking awesome. What else is moving? Square, Microsoft to the upside, NCLH, of course the cruise lines, BLNK is looking decent. How is Clove?
Clove, CLOV, it's actually doing pretty well. It's just holding that little $8.50 support down there, holding the 100 SMA. And I really like it on the 1 minute today. It looks pretty decent. It definitely doesn't look like a bad setup by any means. And whenever you look at like a longer term, like a 180-day, 15-minute, or even on the daily, it's really holding that $8 support so well. And I'm really glad to see it bounce off of that yesterday and start to come back up. And as long as we hold the $8 level, I think we'll be solid for like a week or two.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, Tom, do you have any like last minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, I'm still like really watching some of these marijuana stocks. You know, they're kind of popping up. Looks like Tilray and stuff is starting to turn back over a little bit on an intraday level. But man, I'm really watching them, trying to sell some puts on Tilray, maybe a couple others. You know, I was seeing some great premiums for like August 20th on Tilray down towards like $13, even like $12. So definitely going to be eyeing it out and just kind of seeing like what the premiums are looking like. But really liking Tilray, some of the marijuana stocks. Really like DraftKings. That setup was looking awesome today. Love to see it breaking out on the 1 minute and overall just playing out very, very well. It might be a little overextended right now. I wouldn't necessarily, enter it at this moment, but I really love to see it running.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We had an awesome time. It's awesome to see stocks like DraftKings popping up. But thank you guys so much for joining, and thanks for all of the great questions. And we hope you have an amazing